How's it going today? Today we're going to talk about the reopening plays. You hear this a lot. Before everything reopening, I was going to make a video on this. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to give you some stocks that I think are good, some are bad, and some are just my overall thoughts on it. I mean, the market's kind of selling off. I do videos like this and talk about it. What to do, what not to do, stuff like that. Don't panic sell anything. I don't think the economy's going to crash or anything like that. I think it's a good thing that what's happening with the reopening. I think that's good for the economy. The economy is going to go. But I believe there's some, I put them in 4 categories to make it simpler for me. I think there's reopening stocks and non-reopening, but there's good reopening, bad reopening, and then there's kind of opening, and so there's basically reopening that are good and bad, and non-reopening that are good and bad. And I go explain that more. But basically, the economy is reopening. So a lot of these tech stocks are getting slammed. They're selling this and dumping into the cyclicals and stuff like that. And some of these stocks, I believe, are good that they're buying. Some are bad. And I go kind of get more into that. With my good reopening plays, that let's say you think the economy is opening and it's a good thing, and these are the stocks that you want to buy. They were kind of hammered during the pandemic, but I think they have big upsides. And these are the stocks are like MasterCard, Visa, Square, Disney, and I even like the big banks. I like JP Morgan, Bank of America. Those are the ones I've been holding on forever. I kind of added a little bit when they got below book value, but these stocks are good when the economy is getting back to normal. I'm not saying it's going to boom. I kind of made a video where I don't think it's going to boom. I think it's going to be a good economy, though. I think it's kind of recovering, which I believe is kind of how the market kind of works in kind of a cyclical kind of manner, where it kind of sells off, then it goes back into technology, then it goes out of it, then go back into technology. And you always see that. You go see that in 2016 when the market sold off. Well, the NASDAQ sold off heavily, and they were selling off these tech stocks. They growed a lot. They're just selling it, and they're backing into some of these bad plays or good plays. They're good, but there's some bad ones because they dump some bad ones, and then they get into these stocks that I don't know. I don't really like any of them. I never did. And these are the stocks like Ford. I don't like Ford. These are the bad reopening plays that people are going, the economy is coming back online, so let's pile into these stocks. And these stocks are like Ford. These are the bad reopenings. Ford, I wouldn't recommend buying Ford. ExxonMobil, the economy is going to pick up and all of this. And a lot of the industrials. I'm not really big into industrials. Just because I really just don't like them. Like Caterpillar and stuff like that. I really don't like the stock because I believe they just kind of boom and bust. And like, if you're really, really good at timing the economy, they're good stocks to own. But in my opinion, majority of the time, they just kind of underperform the market over a long period of time. So it's better just to buy an index, so why even mess with those things? You're not probably going to beat the market. They might have a good dividend and stuff like that, maybe, but I don't really in dividend invest because you have to pay taxes on it. So that 8% gain might not be 8% because you get hammered with taxes, or it's so little that you don't get paid taxes, but then you don't even make any money. So I don't really like any of the ExxonMobils or the Chevrons or when you think of industrial, I don't really like any of those companies really at all to buy. I'm not saying they're not important or bad companies. Don't get me wrong, but there's good companies and good stocks, and I don't like a lot of people are buying Coca-Cola and stuff like that. I don't really like any of those stocks at all, like the Verizons and stuff like that. They're kind of, I don't really like them. I really just don't like them because they don't really have the growth. So they're basically dumping these big growth stocks and buying into something that's just going to sit there, and that's good. But, it can kind of be bad in a way. But anyway, these are the non-reopening stocks. I just kind of lumped them together for good ones that I think are so good. They're getting hammered, but I believe they could do excellently. It's kind of like Google. Google, I think, would be good. It's kind of it did very well under the pandemic, and I think they could probably do well. And even Apple is kind of tied into there. I think Apple will do well. I think all the FANG stocks will do well. I think even Netflix is still a good one to own, because I don't think people will kind of go away from that. I think ever, well, maybe not ever. I mean, that's kind of like, maybe in my lifetime, I think Netflix will probably do well, and probably the next 5 years. They probably do well, but sometimes these stocks get hammered, and I think it's kind of a good time to buy some of these good ones like Netflix, Shopify, The Trade Desk, all the cloud stocks I talk about, because these things, think about it, to have a good reopening stock that's kind of sell off, it was doing good before the pandemic, and it could probably do well for after. So that's kind of look at. So The Trade Desk was doing good. Twilio was doing well. CloudStrike, cybersecurity. We need cybersecurity, you know what I mean? Think of all this stuff. I mean, it's going to be more important. But some stocks that didn't do very good are doing good now. And the other one that's for reopening is, I think, Uber. I think Uber is I always kind of talk about Uber. I think Uber is the future of cars. I don't think people will buy cars in the future. I think people are going to just buy an Uber or just get Uber. I think cars are kind of out expensive, and they're expensive. Cars are expensive. I think the only thing that does well if you want to do auto industry is AutoZone or a parts store like that. I'm not saying buy AutoZone or Uber, because people buy used cars. They don't buy newer cars. I mean, some people do, but the economy, wages haven't went up at all. So, you can do whatever you want with that. But I think Uber is probably the good play. So back to the non-reopening are kind of bad. These are things that getting hammered this time. I think Zoom had a good run, but I don't think it's going to still outperform for maybe. I think it's going to be I think these recovery, it might take them a year to recover when they get hammered like that. When they're dropped 20, 30%, which I think the Trade Desk, it's already dropped 20%, almost, I think, maybe almost 10, 30%. I mean, these things are getting clobbered for really no good reasons. I mean, these things, and that's how the market works. They kind of trade these stocks together. They lump them together like I'm doing, and then they trade them in these groups. And some of the good ones, they even get dragged down. So that's why valuations, like some of these stocks, like how can anything get undervalued? Because they get lumped together and they all get dragged down. Like Apple is a great example. Nothing is really wrong with it, and you're really betting that the economy is going to boom. Why would you sell a cell phone provider? Don't people buy cell phones? But it's still selling off because it's all lumped together with these tech stocks that some are probably going to do pretty bad, like DoorDash. I think they could do good, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're going to have the intensity like they did in the previous year. And that's really my opinion. I mean, just think, did it do well before the pandemic? Did it do what, I mean, if you look at that way, it kind of sims them out, so you kind of weed through them. And that's why I wasn't really advocating any of these stocks that people were like, oh, we need to buy that. You need to buy this, or because the pandemic, like Clorox. People bought Clorox, that's kind of stupid. I knew the pandemic wouldn't last forever. I said about 2 years. I think I said about 2 years, and it's been a year, so maybe. I mean, I didn't think the vaccine would come out, so it's hard to predict when that, and I wasn't really a doctor. I was just kind of giving my opinion based off the 1918. It took them about a year and a half to get over that, so I was thinking, well, maybe a year and a half. Well, it took them a year and a half, so maybe 2 years, year and a half with this. So anyway, that's all I got to say with this. So, I mean, like Moderna, I wouldn't recommend Moderna. I wouldn't recommend these biotechs. See, they're kind of lumped together with these things, and them things are selling off. So these things go sell off, and I think a lot of these medical stocks, they gonna make a lot of money. Well, they really don't make a whole lot of money on vaccines because you just do it once and that's it, so they don't really make a whole lot of money on it. But anyway, that's my opinion on this. That's all I gotta say. Hopefully this will help you guys out navigate, because it's kind of, it's kind of daunting when you see your account down 5 or 6% day after day after day. It does get old after a while watching it. Eventually, the best thing I can get is just hold the good ones, sell maybe some of the bad ones. But I don't think I've recommended any bad ones because I always think 3 years out. So I think I'm not really I'm telling you to sell anything. Just kind of hold through. Maybe add to them if you only have maybe, buy a couple shares. Maybe buy some more on the way down. Of the good ones. Don't go after the bad ones because you think something is going to go back up. But anyway, that's all I got to say. Thank you for watching, and I go make another video shortly and put it out there. Make sure you comment, leave a like, see what you guys are buying and everything. I just had a video yesterday about my free stocks for March. I can leave maybe a link down in the description for that. But anyway, thank you, and that's my opinion. Just kind of hold through it. Hold the good ones, sell the bad ones. Well, I don't want you to have any bad ones in your portfolio. I think that's horrible advice if anybody says to put bad ones in there. But anyway, that's why you always have to think long term, because those people that were buying Modernas and stuff, the pandemic wasn't going to last forever, and everybody knew that if you were kind of thought about it. But anyway, thank you for watching, and thank you. I will see you on the next video I make. Thank you.